What's up, everyone? Today, I'm exposing the truth behind the world's most overhyped landmarks. I spent a month traveling to the places you see all over Instagram and in movies. But are they really worth the hype? Let's find out. We're counting down the top 5, and trust me, some of these will surprise you. First stop, Paris, France, to see the most famous painting in the world. I got the earliest ticket possible, but what I found was not what I expected. Let's dive in. Paris, France, the Louvre, the world's most famous museum, a place that's been on my bucket list for as long as I can remember. Just saying the name conjures up images of priceless art, grand halls, and centuries of history. But above all, it's the home of one painting that everyone on Earth seems to know: the Mona Lisa. Leonardo da Vinci's mysterious masterpiece, the most recognized face in art history. You see her everywhere: movies, books, TV. She's a pop culture icon, endlessly parodied and referenced. Her enigmatic smile instantly recognizable even to people who've never set foot in a museum. So, naturally, I expected a massive, awe-inspiring masterpiece. The kind of painting that dominates a room that you can't help but be drawn to from across the gallery. Determined to beat the crowds, I arrived early, hoping for a quiet moment with the world's most famous painting. But even before the doors opened, the line was already snaking around the courtyard. No chance of solitude here. The Louvre is a labyrinth of corridors and galleries, but it feels like everyone is on the same mission. There's a sense of urgency, as if the Mona Lisa might vanish if you don't get there fast enough. Signs everywhere point to the Mona Lisa, not the restrooms or exits. It's as if the entire museum is designed to funnel you toward her. It's less a museum visit, more a stampede. You're swept along by a tide of people, all with the same goal. The anticipation builds as you're carried forward, shoulder to shoulder with strangers from every corner of the globe. Finally, you turn a corner, and there she is. The Mona Lisa, the reason for all this commotion. The Mona Lisa behind thick glass on a huge wall. She's the star of the show, but the setup is almost theatrical. Spotlights, security, and a sense of distance. My first thought, that's it? It's tiny. I mean, really tiny. The painting is dwarfed by the wall it hangs on, almost swallowed up by the space around it. Seriously, it's about the size of a poster. Not a movie poster either. More like the kind you'd hang in your dorm room. Your TV is probably bigger. In fact, most people's laptops are almost the same size. And you're kept far away, behind a rope, with a sea of people in front. There's no getting close. No chance to study the brushwork or the subtle details. Forget seeing the details or the famous smile. You're fighting glare and smartphones. The glass reflects every flash, every screen, making it almost impossible to see her clearly. I waited, hoping the crowd would thin. It never did. The room is always packed, a constant churn of people coming and going. People push in, snap a selfie, and leave. It's a conveyor belt of tourists, each one desperate for proof they were here. It's a photo op, not an art experience. Most barely glance at the painting before turning their backs for a selfie. The Louvre is filled with masterpieces you can actually enjoy up close, like the Winged Victory of Samothrace or the Venus de Milo. These works are just as historic, and you can actually stand in front of them, take your time, and really look. But everyone rushes past them for this one tiny painting. It's like the rest of the museum is invisible. The Mona Lisa is historic, but the experience? Overhyped. You can feel the letdown in the room, people expecting magic but getting a glimpse and a glare. You spend more time battling crowds than appreciating art. The whole thing feels more like a theme park attraction than a moment with a masterpiece. It's a bucket list item that leaves you wondering what the fuss is about. You check it off, but you're not sure you got what you came for. My advice: visit the Louvre, but don't expect magic at the Mona Lisa. There's so much more to see and so many quieter moments to be found. Explore the quieter galleries. You'll find real treasures there. The true magic of the Louvre is in the unexpected, the overlooked, the art you stumble upon when you're not following the crowd. One overhyped landmark down. Next, we're off to the UK for a prehistoric mystery, Stonehenge. Stay tuned for another adventure. Welcome to Stonehenge. Nestled deep in the rolling green hills of the English countryside, a place shrouded in mystery and legend for thousands of years. You might imagine wandering freely among these ancient stones, running your hands over their weathered surfaces, and feeling the weight of history beneath your fingertips. But the reality is a little less magical. Stonehenge sits surprisingly close to a busy road, and for many, their first glimpse is from the window of a passing car, the monument almost blending into the landscape as traffic whizzes by. To visit, you'll park at a sprawling, modern visitor center, complete with gift shops and exhibits. From there, a shuttle bus ferries you and dozens of other visitors across the fields to the site itself. The stones are undeniably impressive, rising out of the earth like something from another world. But as you approach, you're stopped by a thick rope barrier, keeping you well back from the ancient circle. Instead of walking among the stones, you're guided along a roped-off path, circling the monument from a distance, 30 feet away at best, and sometimes even farther. All around you, crowds of tourists jostle for the perfect photo, everyone capturing the same angles, the same distant views. The sense of personal connection to the site is hard to find. The monument itself feels smaller than you might expect, and the enforced distance makes it difficult to truly appreciate the scale and craftsmanship of the stones. With audio guides in hand, you listen to stories and theories about Stonehenge's origins, but it's almost like watching a documentary, except you're standing right there, separated by ropes and fences. There are special access tours that let a lucky few step inside the stone circle, but these are rare, tightly controlled, and come with a hefty price tag, making them out of reach for most visitors. For the vast majority, Stonehenge remains a distant spectacle, admired from afar rather than experienced up close. The mystical, almost spiritual encounter you might have hoped for is replaced by a more controlled, museum-like visit. The surrounding landscape is undeniably beautiful, with wildflowers and sweeping fields, but the stones themselves feel almost locked away, protected from the very people who came to see them. Of course, preservation is crucial. These stones have stood for millennia, and protecting them ensures they'll be here for generations to come. Still, the strict barriers can make the visit feel a bit underwhelming. If you're a history lover or a fan of ancient mysteries, Stonehenge is worth seeing at least once. Just arrive knowing what to expect, a carefully managed experience, not a hands-on adventure. That's 2 iconic landmarks down. Next, we're off to Copenhagen to visit a statue that's famous around the world. But is it really worth the trip? Let's find out. Copenhagen, Denmark, home of Hans Christian Andersen and the Little Mermaid statue. The city is gorgeous, but the statue? Not so much. You picture a majestic, life-sized sculpture by the harbor. Instead, you find a crowd huddled around a tiny, 4-foot-tall statue on a rock. It's beautiful, but shockingly small, more garden gnome than national monument. Tourists scramble over rocks for a selfie, making the spot chaotic and far from magical. The setting isn't a fairy tale cove. It's an industrial harbor with cranes and ships in the background. The experience is transactional. Snap a photo, move on. Copenhagen has so much more to offer. Colorful Nyhavn, palaces, amazing food. Yet this tiny statue gets all the attention. My verdict? Skip it unless you're passing by. Spend your time exploring the real gems of the city. 3 for 3 on overhyped landmarks. Next, we're off to Hollywood for a sign that's harder to reach than you think. Los Angeles, California, the land of movie stars, palm trees, and the iconic Hollywood sign perched high above the city. It's a symbol recognized around the world, instantly conjuring up images of fame, glamour, and the magic of the movies. You see it in every movie, every postcard, and every travel guide. But here's the thing. Actually getting close to the Hollywood sign is a whole different story, one that's way more complicated than you'd expect. I tried driving up, thinking it would be easy. Instead, I ended up lost in a maze of winding residential streets, surrounded by no access signs at every turn. GPS? Not much help here. The roads twist and turn, and every route seems to dead end or lead to another warning sign. Locals have made it nearly impossible to park or walk up. The neighborhoods are fiercely protective, with strict parking rules, security patrols, and plenty of signs making it clear. Tourists aren't welcome to linger. Next, I tried the Griffith Observatory, a classic spot for tourists and locals alike. It's a beautiful place to visit, with sweeping views of the city and the mountains. The views of Los Angeles are incredible, but the Hollywood sign itself? It's tiny and distant, almost like a toy perched on the hillside. You'll need binoculars just to read the letters. You need a serious zoom lens just to get a halfway decent photo. Most people end up with a blurry white smudge in the distance, not the epic shot they imagined. Hiking trails in Griffith Park offer better views, but it's a tough climb. Hot, dusty, and longer than you think. Even after all that effort, you're still not as close as you'd hope, and the sign remains just out of reach. The area around the sign is completely fenced off, with security cameras watching your every move. There are warning signs everywhere, making it clear that trespassing is not an option. Getting close is impossible. Try and you'll meet the police. The sign is protected like a celebrity, and the authorities take it seriously. Even the Hollywood and Highland Center, designed for tourists, gives you a distant, smoggy view. It's crowded, noisy, and the sign is just a tiny speck on the horizon. After a full day of trying every possible angle, I realized the Hollywood sign is best seen from afar, or maybe just in the movies. Up close, the magic fades, and the reality sets in. The hype is all about the image, not the experience. It's a symbol, not a destination. And that's exactly how Los Angeles wants to keep it. If you want a photo, you'll have to hike for it, but don't expect that perfect Instagram shot. Sometimes the legend is better left to your imagination. 4 landmarks down. Last stop, Italy, for a tower that's famous for leaning for crowds and for being just as tricky to experience up close as the Hollywood sign. Pisa, Italy, the Leaning Tower, world famous for its tilt. The Square of Miracles is beautiful, with gleaming marble buildings and green lawns. The tower leans more than you expect, but then you see the crowds. It's a sea of people, all striking the same holding up the tower pose. Getting a clean photo is nearly impossible. Someone's always in your shot. The tower itself is smaller than you'd think, about 185 feet tall. The adjacent cathedral is stunning, but most tourists ignore it. Climbing the tower is the highlight. You feel the lean as you ascend, and the view is great. But tickets are pricey, and your time at the top is short. Back on the ground, it's chaos. Endless souvenir stalls and selfie takers. The whole experience feels commercialized and rushed. The Leaning Tower is a classic case of a landmark consumed by its own gimmick. You go, take the photo, and leave. After 5 world-famous landmarks, its clear hype doesn't guarantee a great experience. So there you have it, the truth about 5 of the world's most overhyped landmarks. From tiny paintings to distant signs, the reality rarely matches the dream. Sometimes the journey is more memorable than the destination. If you enjoyed this adventure, hit subscribe for more honest travel videos. Comment below, which landmark do you think is the most overrated? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.